Hey guys, I wanted to always do something different for a video. And I was always thinking about what can I do that's PR related instead of it just being, the usual review a toy or talk about news, something unique. What was cool on Twitter, Ranger Board always likes posting tweets and stuff and they talk about, threads and discussions on their forums. And they had brought up a subject that if there was a HasLab project for something big, really expensive, what would you like it to be? And that could be, virtually anything. So I thought to myself, how could we improve the Morpher toys? Like now, if money was not like an issue, what functions and features could you add to the toy to make it worthwhile? And my inspiration came from the complete selection belts that Bandai does for the Kamen Rider series. And not just because they're, they look like the show prop, they're fully, sized to adults and whatnot. They also include various voice lines, music, sound effects, and features that are used on the show, from activation sounds, mode changes, and bonus things like special activation noises that were used in the first appearance of the belt and whatnot. They include all these cool functions. So I said, what would happen if Hasbro did the same thing with the Power Morpher? Now, these updates and upgrades could be done to any Morpher in any of the seasons, but I wanted to focus specifically on the Power Morpher and what they could add to improve on the toy to be more show accurate, to be more cooler, and be the ultimate Power Morpher. Now, these first changes are a personal preference. Me, I always wanted to match the show as much as possible. Since MMPR used the original 93 Bandai toy, there were some things I would actually remove because I didn't really care for. The first thing would be is the die-cast plates on the Power Morpher. And I know that sounds weird, like why would you do that? I don't know. I never liked the Power Morpher, even in the Legacy version that Bandai made. One, it made it too heavy, and two, it visually didn't look like the toy anymore that was used on the show. I prefer it to be the original gray plastic. Another personal change would be the stand. The stand that comes with the Lightning Collection Power Morpher is cool and all, but I think it's too much. Me, I would rather have the box itself. It comes in have a foam insert where the Morpher and the coins are put in, and you can display it vertically up. So using the box and being in a cool attaché case. Other changes they did to the Lightning Collection Morpher was they made it so that when you insert a power coin, it recognizes the power coin and it changes the colors to that specific Ranger. Now, in the show, it didn't do that. It was simply red and red alone, so I rather turn it back to the original version of just being red. Another change that they did to it that I didn't really care for was that the original red backing, where the lights go, they added the lightning effect to mimic what they did when the Rangers morph on the TV show. Again, that wasn't a part of the original Morpher toy, so I would revert that back to the original design that they did. Now, updated functions to the Morpher that would improve on it and be worth a higher price. Now, the first thing would be is that it would include all 7 coins, meaning the original 5, the Dragon Zord coin, and the Tiger Zord coin. Another feature that I always wish they would do is make it possible so that the plates could be changed so that you don't have to buy multiple different versions of the Morpher in order to accommodate all the different variants. So instead of you buying 2 Morphers for the gray version, the gold version, the plates can be included in the set. Me particularly, I'm going to just focus on the TV series. The movie version Morpher will be its own thing. So what would I include in the set would be the season 1 plates, meaning in the first season, they forgot to put the black stripes on the Morpher toy when they were filming, so that would be one option. The second option would be the season 2 and 3 plates on, so that you would have the black stripes. And of course would include the gold plates, but additional options would be the damaged plates for both gray and gold to mimic what Adam used during Always a Chance in Power Rangers in Space. Now, another thing that I really wish toys would take advantage of now, since we have all these advances in toys and sound effects and materials, one thing that they don't really include is voice controls for these toys. Because when you add a lot of functions to a toy, you would either have to add multiple modes with switches, or the toy would have different functions based on its features. in the sake of a command writer toy, it has different like insert items so that it can control which sound effects. Now, the Power Morpher doesn't really have that bar, the coins, but you can't really do that with the coins because they would be specific for specific rangers, but for other functions it wouldn't really work. So I said, why don't we include voice activation lines so that A, we can actually yell out commands that they do in the show to mimic what the show is, but also control what mode we go into. It gives us more options for different sound effects to include, which will be a lot if you want to recreate everything from the show as much as possible. Now, first example of voice controls would be selecting which season morph sequence would you wish to do. For example, season 1 would be the classic Mastodon, Pterodactyl, Triceratops, etc., etc. Second option would be season 2's, which would have the additional rangers, meaning Aisha, Adam, and Rocky. And in season 3's case, we would have the new updated version, which would include Black Ranger power, Yellow Ranger power, White Ranger power, and as well as a special hidden mode for Trini's daughter, assuming she does get to morph as the Yellow Ranger in the 30th anniversary. Having voice activation would make it easier because you would simply turn on the Morpher and say Season 1 mode, Season 3 mode. It would give a confirmation sound effect and it would switch to those particular sound effects. Another function I would include is music mode, so that, say, if you want to do a morph, so say you want to do Mastodon, it would play the morphing sequence music that was done in MMPR in the background if you turn on music mode. If you don't, you'll just have the normal sound effects that you would have if you would just push the button. Auto mode. Now this mode, I thought, well, we all like to call out Mastodon, Pterodactyl, or Black Ranger power, but there are times where you just want to push the button and you would like to hear the actors do the sound effects and do the voice lines. So I would also include a mode called auto mode, meaning if you put it in auto mode and you push the Power Morpher button, it will simply play the characters doing Mastodon, Pterodactyl, depending on which season you're in, and it will play them sequentially. So you'll have them all say it out through like they did in the show, and you don't have to do it yourself. And there'll also be an option for auto single mode so that if you just want to play Pterodactyl or Triceratops, Blue Ranger power, you can simply press the button. It will only trigger it once. Another mode that the Power Morpher can do is damage mode, mimicking what happened in Always a Chance when Adam used his Season 2 Morpher that was damaged during the Season 3 premiere where they lost their powers and switching over to the Ninjetti powers. So if you were in this mode, you were able to say Mastodon, and every so often randomly you would hear the shorting out sound effects that was done in Always a Chance. Another thing that morphers always seem to forget is the power down state. You know, we always focus on, magical source, mystic force, it's morphin time, shift into turbo. We have all the sound effects for turning the morpher on, but we never have the sound effects usually for powering down. So I would include the power down mode. So we would simply trigger this mode as calling out power down, which would give us the sound effects for when the Ranger suit powers are down. And I would also include a bonus mode that when you pull out the power coin in power down state, you'll get the exclusive sound effect done when in Return of an Old Friend. In that particular episode, when they pulled out their coins, the suit simply failed because they took their coins out and gave them the Goldar. So I would like to also include that as a bonus sound effect. Another sound effect that always gets ignored in the Power Morpher is the Power Crystal mode. You know, when the Rangers call their Dinozords, they use their power coins to form the power crystals. I would include that as two different modes. One is power crystal mode and power crystal mode auto. One would be activated by the voice line, we need Dinozord power now, which then you would hear the Dinozords roars and stuff coming out of the volcano. Then when you pull out the power coin, you can do the crystal sound effect sound when the crystal comes out. And if you're in auto mode, you can do a voice activation line where you do 3, 2, 1, power up, and you have the crystal sound effect trigger, and then the Megazord sequence happens at the end. The other mode I would also include last would be special mode, meaning you would have an assorted lines from the various episodes. You would hear lines from Billy, Jason, Zach, Catherine, just moments from the episodes as much as they can use. I mean, all these options could be done to any morpher in any line to improve their, usability, functionality. And yes, it would add more money, but it would be the ultimate power morpher, so you wouldn't have to buy so many different morphers, and you would get the majority of the functions to it. Like, there are morphers out there that had very little functions in the original toy, like the Turbo Morpher. Yeah, it had the cool key, but it had literally 2 sound effects. You put the key in, it has the morph sound effect, and you have the calling sound effect. It did nothing else. It would be really cool if Hasbro tried that for having like the ultimate morpher. Yeah, it would be expensive. I would probably say it would be like close to $150 depending on accessories. Like, for example, the Wind Morpher, if they did make an ultimate version of that Morpher, it would have to include all the power discs, which would make it pretty expensive. But I think if they put in the effort and the detail to those things, especially the later morphers that came with straps, and they would come with show accurate straps, whether it's based off the Japanese version of the straps or the American version of the US suit straps, because the straps used in the show are usually much better than what they gave the original toy. And of course, I would really hope they would try to get actors to come back, or at least go into the archives of the episodes to extract the sound effects and music and audio properly so that we can actually hear things from the show. And of course, you know, if it worked out well, we would get later season 1. Me personally, I would love to see improvements on the Turbo Morpher, like I said, the Transmorpher in Lost Galaxy, the Lightspeed Rescue Morpher, because a lot of things they can also do is restore lost features as well. Because for many of the morphers, game modes and LCD screen were missing from the US version because they took functions out to save on money for the US release. I would love for things that were lost from the Japanese version to be reinstated into the toy. Personal one that would really be helpful with motion controls and hand gestures would be the Zeonizer, because it would require the whooshing noises. What morpher would you guys like to see that would be really improved on? The Samuraizer, for example, because the US toy was really poorly done. That would be cool to see an improvement on, with having all missing functions that were from the Shoto phone put back in, for example. Or, you know, stuff that you love from the US series that just wasn't in there, like voice lines. I always kind of hate it that rarely do we ever hear the voices of the characters in the toys. So leave your ideas down below on what toy improvements would you like to see, what particular toy you would like to see improved. Even if there was like a really, you know, the toy was nearly perfect and it had very minor things, they could always improve on, again, size, straps. What price range would you be comfortable with? Me personally, if they included everything in the Power Morpher, plates, even if they want the extra mile, included the movie version plates to work with the Morpher and had the movie version sound effects included as well, and the Ninjetti coins, I would have no problem purchasing a Power Morpher that had everything in it for like $150 to $200, depending on like how far they go with the details.